This is Objective 1, Day 2. This homework was assigned on March 20th, and I'm going to do problems 1 through 3 first. And problems 1 through 3 are these guys here, which are all involve writing equations. And these are the answers that you should have gotten. Number 1 was C, 2 and 3 were both D. So if you missed any one of those, just skip ahead to the one that you missed. Okay, so number 1, Wesley works at a shoe store. He's paid $8 an hour plus a 7% commission on his total sales. Which of the following best represents T, his total weekly earnings, if he works 30 hours and has a total sales of S dollars? I think the first thing that trips people up on this type of problem is that word commission. A lot of you guys don't know what it actually means. And so basically commission is that every time you make a sale, if you have a job, the company gives you a certain percentage of that sale, and so you have incentive to work more and make more sales. So for example, if you work selling TVs and you sell a TV and the company makes $100 from it, then they'll give you $7 to reward you for doing that, and the more TVs you get, the more bonus you get. It's almost like a tip that you would get from working in a restaurant. So that's the first point of confusion. Okay, so basically he makes, oh, I can't write that far over. There. He makes $8 an hour, and then every time he sells shoes, he gets 7% commission off of that. So they want to know which equation works for that. And if you guys remember from class, I told you all of these are pretty much going to be y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. And you just have to figure out which one is which. Okay? Some of you may automatically think that since it's $8 per hour, that would be your slope, but it's actually not, because they tell you how many hours it is. So it's not an amount that's changing. It's $8 for 30 hours, which would be $240, 8 times 30. So that is actually your y-intercept, because it's not changing. It's a set number of hours. What does change is the total number of sales that he makes, and in this case it's 7%. That's your slope. So the first question is, how do we change 7% into something that we can use in an equation? And you can remember that you just move your decimal point over 2 places. So you'd have to stick a 0 there. So it's 0.07. If you don't remember that, then take that 7% and put it over 100. Percent always means over 100. And if you do that, you get 0.07. Either way, it's the same thing. So if you look at these answer choices, D is automatically wrong because it's 0.7 and not 0.07. And B is automatically wrong because it's 7 instead of 0.07. Okay, so now we just look at A and C, and the only one that makes sense is C. So we have 8 times 30, that's basically our y-intercept that I wrote down here. And then it's 7%, that's that 0.07, and that's your slope. And then you put x, but in this case they told us to use the letter s instead. So that's how you get that answer. So the 8 times 30 is your y-intercept, the 0.07 is your slope, and that's your equation. Okay. Number 2, Miss Adams bought a refrigerator that cost $1,200 including tax. The cost of electricity to run this refrigerator is estimated at $78 per year. Which equation best represents C, the total cost of the refrigerator including electricity over n years of operation? So we want to know how much it costs after having it for n years. And once again, we're using this basic formula, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. In this case, your y-intercept would be 1,200 because it's not changing. You pay that amount once and then you're done. You never pay that again. So there's my y-intercept. And now I need my slope, which would be 78. And remember, you've got to have an x in it, but in this case they asked us to use n instead, and so it'd be 78n. So if you look at your answer choices, it's D. So basically it's saying she's going to be paying $1,200 for the fridge up front, and then every year after that she has to pay an extra $78. So if it's 5 years, it'd be 5 times 78, and then that's added to $1,200. If you guys can't remember how to know if the n goes on this side or on the other side, just remember that time is almost always independent, and so it would be in the equation. Okay. And the last problem on this video is number 3. Mrs. Franklin received a 7% raise at her job. If she was earning X dollars per year before, how much is she earning now? This one is different. It is not this form. Okay, so I said it was almost always, but in this case it's not. So she used to earn X dollars, and that's not changing. She's still earning X dollars, but they're adding on an extra 7%. So once again, just like we talked about in the other problem, 7% would be written as 0.07. You can either move the decimal over or divide by 100. And so you're taking her initial earnings, the X, and you're adding 7% of the same. So for example, if let's say she made $100 an hour, then to do a 7% raise, you would add 7% of 100, which is $7. So that means that now she would be making $107. So that's how this problem works. You take the original and you're adding on the extra percent. And we did problems similar to this when we were doing area in the last 2 units ago. So the answer is D. C, you can kind of rule them out, is wrong because they didn't do the percent correctly. A, also they didn't do the percent correctly. And B, if that were the answer, then she would only be making $100.07 an hour, which is not enough. You have to multiply it. Percents always have to be multiplied by something.